Welcome to Rooted Within with Lily and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers, sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.
Right. Normally, I would have someone to throw to co-host and do the introductions, but today you only have me. But
Ooh,
in the studio,
I'm so excited.
I got the one and only OT,
Yes, ma'am.
better known as so many.
No, not
Just
really.
OT.
It's just it's Omar Tom, known as OT, and it's as simple as that.
Have you always been OT?
No, it started about 2009 or 2010 when I started in radio,
Yeah.
and
You were in radio?
yeah, for a brief period of time I was.
Oh, mate. And I thought I knew you. So I'm excited because for once I've got someone, a guest that I know inside out and has been a real long time friend of mine. So it's great to
Right.
have you in the studio. But I
Thanks.
didn't know you were on
We're
radio.
on that airplane mode. Yeah.
Okay. So it was.
09, approximately 2009 till about 2013.
Dubai Radio.
104.1.
No way.
Yeah.
Doing
I
what?
co-host. I began by shadowing Danny Neville on his show on Saturdays, and eventually started RJing and co-hosting and like learning that whole radio world. It's been fun. Every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. like clockwork. The Edge with Danny Neville. It was myself, Mikey, aka Empty Pockets, Kareem, DJ Brooklyn, and Danny.
Jeez.
Yeah,
That's a lifetime ago.
yeah, it was fun.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump back for a second. How'd you end up in Dubai?
How I ended up in Dubai. I was born in Sudan, and less than 40 days later, my mom came out here. My dad was already here. He was setting up a new office for his business. He has a business in cargo and shipping. So, yeah, I was just, my dad was like, all right, once you're done, come through. So,
That was supposed to be your future.
that was it. So here we are. And we've been here for the most part ever since.
Crazy. So I remember the first time I met you was the year would have been maybe it was after 2014 or around that time 14 15. You'll be able to correct the date
yeah,
when I
I
tell
can
you
correct
where
the
I
date.
saw you.
Go for it.
You were sitting in what used to be the Collective.
Oh, so that is after 2016.
Okay.
The reason why I started the Can Show November 2015, I met Reem at the Dubai Links in 2016, made a barter deal, and then in May 2016 I had a surgery, which we can get to later.
Yeah.
And then part of the barter that I've made was after I was going to build like a complete business strategy for them. And in return, I get to use their sound studios after hours.
I'd arrive because that was the time because that was in the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And I used to come there because I used to go to the Fitness First for my spin classes.
Right.
Remember?
Yes.
That's
I
what it
remember that.
was.
And you used to stop by before.
Stop by and
after
say
sessions.
hello. I would try and do it before because after I looked a freaking mess.
Yeah.
But I would rock up and every time I'd see this dude sitting in Reem's office in the corner table, just
Yo,
head down.
I put in that work.
You were there every day.
Yo, like for somebody that worked in advertising, talk about setting boundaries. Because I would show up to work on time. I'll spend my lunch break on my personal computer working on the Can Show. And then as soon as it hit 6, I'd leave the office, go to their office and set up. I was either recording an episode or I was working on something in regards to the show.
But like, I remember the first time and I sort of saw you there and I kept walking and I go up to her and I go, there's someone in your office. She goes, oh yeah, that's just OT.
Yo,
That's just
it got
OT.
to a point where they gave me the key card for the door because I
Yeah.
would close up after everybody.
Yeah, but but that's the thing about Reem. Reem and Omar are just amazing people, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are.
But you were in advertising, and I remember you telling
Oh.
me about life. Can we mention where? Or rather not mention
Let's
where?
not, because
Let's
I
not.
might. Can I cuss on this show?
Of course you
Oh,
can.
okay, because I got a lot of shit I could say that I don't want to, I don't want it to
But
come
you-
back again.
I remember you we had a few chats back then, and you're like, you know what? It sucked my soul.
Yo, it was horrible.
You were there, and you were in the advertising role for quite a few years.
Many years. I started my career in advertising in 2011, 12.
Did you want to be in advertising, or did you
so-
just fall in there?
I fell into it. Even educationally speaking, I fell
Yeah.
into it. I was supposed to go to do aerospace engineering.
What?
Yeah.
I really do know this man, and I have known
Right?
him for years.
Right? It's
This
just
is
one of
what I
those
love.
stories that I guess that
What?
haven't come out a lot. Yeah, I was adamant. Like, because my dad was in shipping, my uncle was the CEO of the Sudanese Airlines at some point in the 80s, and he was in that industry as
Yeah.
well. I got cousins who are pilots. So I was like, great. This is
That's where
like
I'm
the
going.
family legacy,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. But I wanted something that is also different, but kind of similar. And I'm like, this thing. And the reason why, there's a book I used to go to my dad's office a lot when I was young.
Yeah.
And I'd go to pick up the same book where were just blueprints of all different types of airplanes.
Oh, wow.
And I just like, and it was like this old book and everything's in black and white. And I just thought it was the coolest thing I've seen. So yeah, it was just one of those things. But just
happened?
because of my health conditions, they were deteriorating really fast. And I was not aware of how bad it was. And my mom was like, look, I'm scared. I'm worried. How about you stick around? Maybe do your bachelor's here. Then you can go. And I was like, ugh, I don't know. And I was like, all right, cool. Which university will take me right now? Applied, got into AUD, into their business program. Like, all right, just do this thing and see what happens. Eventually, I was doing something called integrated. No, it was called management business, like MIB, something like that. It has something to do with technology and business management. I don't remember what it was called. And like by my second semester, they're like, oh, we dropped that program. It's not there anymore. Come and choose something else.
Awesome.
I'm like,
Your
"All right, great."
future, the way you saw it.
Yo.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
like, I'm like, all right, what is this? Let's do IMC, Integrated Marketing Communications. Sound fancy word for advertising. That. And the only difference I chose that, I remember, over advertising
Yeah.
was this had a business angle to it,
Okay.
whereas traditional advertising was just
It's just pure
more
advertising.
yeah.
Yeah, more the creative.
So I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna do this thing. And I think I got lucky with the professors I had because that set me into this direction. And I remember the reason why I chose it was that I was really into creative stuff. Like my mom always talks about how I sketch a lot. I still do. Sometimes I'll doodle here and there. I hired an intern a while back, and she apparently used to go to high school with us, and she was in my brother's class.
Yeah.
And she had a sketch
Your
that I
younger
made.
brother, right?
Yeah, my
Yep.
younger brothers. So she had a sketch that I made from way back when. I'm like, I
No
don't
way.
I don't have that kind of sentimentality to it. I was just like kind of draw it off and hand it over. So yeah, so I was doing that. I was really into like really deep into hip hop culture.
Yeah.
In all its aspects. Like I wanted everything about it. I was
Yeah.
very thirsty for all that knowledge about and information, the music, the language, the fashion, all of it, you know? And I worked at a music store when I was in high school in Sharjah because they did like weddings, right? Super random. And I negotiated a deal where I was like, look, I'll fix, clearly you guys have a lot of stuff that you don't know how to keep track of. I built like a spreadsheet system for them. And in return, I get to learn how to DJ for free, and I get to like play and use their equipment. And
Always the entrepreneur, right?
yeah,
And always very resourceful.
honestly, it was just,
It's just a thing.
it's just a thing. It's exposure.
Or more, is it? You've always got a hunger to learn. You're curious.
yes,
You have
that
a real
all the time.
curiosity.
Yeah.
And from everything that I've seen you do, to me, that's sort of the underlying driver.
Completely. Like I need to know how something
Yeah.
works. Like
Well, there's the
you
engineering.
hear the
huh?
stories of kids breaking
Yeah,
open
breaking
things.
things.
Yeah, like I did a lot of that. I did not put them back together
But
very
you do.
well.
But you do that in your business. You
Completely.
break things
So
apart.
I need to know how things
Yeah.
work. So like by the time I was in my senior year in high school, I was such a troublemaker. Like academically, I did well. Oh,
Never. Would
Yo.
not believe that for a moment,
the
OT.
fights that I used to get into were horrible. And I was like, okay, I need to clean my record because it just says sports, academia, no discipline, and no like extracurricular activities other than sports on campus. So like, all right, I'm gonna do this thing, and I joined, quote unquote, to become like a prefect
Yeah.
in school. Yo, I was like, I was the plug because now I got like access to like school admin stuff, and I'd let my boys do what they wanted. Like I was that guy. Like, oh, you need an extra basketball? Like, I got you.
Yeah, there's the strategy. There's the strategy as
Right?
well. Everything was calculated.
Of course, like you got to hook your boys up.
But that's sort of what you did in the advertising world, right? You were
Same thing.
strategy.
Exactly.
Picking things
Through and
apart,
through.
understanding it, putting it back
Exactly.
together in a better way.
And I had an amazing professor, Dr. Sarah Kamal, that put me on that path. And she's like, that's what you should be doing.
that
I'm like,
aspect of it.
Yeah. And she's like, because you'll get to do this stuff, you'll get to play, you get to be this kind of creative, but also
You understand.
all these elements of art and music and hip hop that you want to integrate into your life fits here and there. And I was like, all right, cool. This kind of makes sense. So I ventured into that. Funny enough, I initially got hired in PR, part of a management training program for one of the ad agencies that barely lasted 3 months before I got moved to digital and social. And that was because a gentleman named James Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
Huge in the music scene back in the day. He worked with people like Jazzy Jeff, Destiny Child. He worked for Columbia Records, made a lot of money in the .com era, and then kind of quit music and moved into like tech and digital.
Yeah.
And he sits with the likes of your Gary V's, so on and so forth. And at the times, I got a message on Twitter from @KeyInfluencer. This is like 2012.
Mm.
And hey, it's my first time in the Middle East. Where can I get really cool sneakers from? Clearly, you seem to be in. I'm like, how did this guy know I was about sneakers like that? And I checked my account and I panicked. I'm like, how did this person know? And it turns out I posted it's like a pair of Jordans photo or something at some point. And it's like, and he picked up on that. And I told him, like, look, man, I rely on family and friends and online marketplaces. There's nowhere here that you can get, those type of shoes. Bring it with you if you're coming from the States.
Yeah.
And after a few months, he's like, hey, I'm coming to the Middle East. Let's catch up, jump on a Skype call. It always failed because Skype in Dubai was not a thing.
Oh, God, no.
So that never worked
Painful.
out. Show up to work one day, and they're like, oh, everybody in the boardroom. And there's this dude, hat, dreadlocks, and just standing there talking about, I did this for this XYZ brand and that and the Grammys and that. I'm like, this huge success story. And I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, and he's just so cocky. And I Googled his name in the middle of the session. And it turns out it was the same guy that I was talking to on
No
Twitter.
way.
And there's like James Andrews, Key Influencer. I never put two and two together because that's just a social media handle. I'm like, oh shit, you're that guy.
I know you.
In the middle of the meeting, and everybody stopped and they're looking at me like I was crazy. I was like, oh, OT official, we connected on Twitter. And he hugged me like we've known each other for years.
No way.
And we became super close like since then. So he tells management, this guy should not be in PR. That's a waste of his time. Put him in digital, and they felt like that was the right space for me. And at the time, it was exciting. This is the time of your private Facebook groups and Twitter.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was it.
And we worked on some crazy projects. We did something called, it was technically the first transmedia project in the Middle East where certain characters on television had Facebook pages, Facebook profiles, not pages, like private profiles of the characters' names. And then during the hiatus, they will do other things. And so people started to feel like these people are real. And we kind of built this whole universe. That was a lot of fun. So we got to do really cool stuff. And eventually I'm like, all right, I'm done. Like, what's next? Because this is not strategy. This is not what I came to do.
No.
And I asked them to shift me to strategy. They're like, we don't know. We'll figure something out. I went to the head of strategy. I'm like, sir.
Why? Why do you think it was because they were getting more out of you in digital, didn't want to create that hole?
So here's the thing. The issue with, in my humble opinion, that I never liked about the advertising industry is that strategy as a role was actually never seen as a revenue generating function. It's an additional function to creative deliverables.
Oh, well, that's the wrong way of looking at it.
Right? So very rarely would you have clients that are willing to pay extra for strategy. So you kind of try to hide that revenue within the line items.
Okay.
And I'm like, but we're like the brain cell, in some ways. Yes, creative takes whatever this thing is and makes it real.
Yeah, but if the strategy is not right, it doesn't matter what your creative is.
Because here's the thing. We're not creating art for the sake of art. We're creating art for the sake of commerce.
Exactly.
And it's a very fine line, and it's a very fine dance that you got to know how to do. My role is to figure that connection to commerce out.
Yep.
To how to meet business, not only marketing, but also business objectives for clients. And then be crazy, rowdy, and cool enough to inspire the creative team to get excited about this thought that you have.
Yeah.
Whatever that strategy proposition is. So like you straddle both worlds at all times.
Yeah.
And the beauty about it is that unlike anything else, it gave me access to top of the food chain of corporate ladders. Like I would sit with C-suite management.
But they're the ones that understood. They were the ones that understood the value of it.
Completely.
Yeah.
So the access you get, especially when you step into the business development space, now you're like part of locking in new businesses, pitching new clients.
Listen, strategy is my happy place.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Like to me, it's those are words I can't say on air. But yeah,
but it is.
And it takes me places.
I can never get enough of it.
Oh no.
And I think in a lot of ways that's how I built everything we've built today.
So you ended up getting into the strategy team because I remember you telling me that, and then at some point you were like, "Yeah, you're still not doing what I want to do, so I'm out."
Yeah.
Drop mic. See you later.
Yeah, I was, and it was funny too. Like I won an all expense paid trip to the Cannes Lion Awards.
Yep.
Submitted my resignation the day I got on the flight.
Well done,
Same.
you.
Like, all right, yo,
Thanks,
I'm out.
thanks. How do you remember much from the can line?
Surprisingly, certain things, not all of it. Anything after 2 p.m.
No.
Let's not
Gap.
discuss.
Yeah, and we can't discuss.
No.
It's in the gutter.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
little
Let's leave it
literal
there.
gutter bar.
Yeah.
No. Brilliant. Did you have the idea for Dukan before you left, or did you leave
Oh.
and then?
So I always knew I was going to build a business of some
Yep.
sort. I think, and I credit this to the exposure to my dad's world.
Mm-hmm.
From a very young age, my dad, so in Sudanese culture, there's a saying which is like "Saghirul Qawmi Khadimuhum," which means that
The small.
the youngest,
The youngest.
of the tribe is the servant, right?
Okay. Yep.
So, and my dad loves to host. He would host breakfasts, lunches, dinners, teas, coffees, whatever it is. And it's a bunch of OGs, and it always interrupts what you want to do as a kid. It'll interrupt
Playtime.
it'll interrupt gaming, it'll interrupt watching it'll interrupt your life.
Yeah.
So now you got to drop everything and serve these old men who had horrible humor, but they thought they were funny, and you just don't want to be there. So now you're the guy, setting up the dining table. You're the guy like setting up tea and coffee and pouring, and you're looking like, sir, how much sugar would you like with your tea? And you're looking like 2 3/4 spoons. I'm like, bro,
yeah.
I'm like, I'm
2
good,
or 3.
I'm like, I'm good at math. You figure this out, because I do not know this equation, sir. Like, how do you do that? So like, I couldn't stand them. But
Yeah.
that exposure was amazing, because my dad would sit with other business folk, would sit with dignitaries, would sit with diplomats, and all kinds of people that I
Yeah.
had exposure to. And there are things that I've learned that I've noticed, like, okay, it's just the kind of conversations they have. They're, certain etiquettes and cues of business, like, you don't talk business over the meal. You talk about business when the tea comes and you're having dessert, because now you're full and you're comfortable.
Yeah. And
you know?
if you were in Korea, it was only when you were drinking.
Right? Exactly. Like, but not during the meal in and of itself. That's where quote unquote you break bread. That's you're building rapport. You're talking politics, global economics, life, kids, whatever, right? And then business kind of comes away at the end. So like learning these etiquettes that are still practiced by that generation, sort of customarily, right?
Yeah.
So kind of that exposure taught me a lot. So I always knew I wanted to do something that was mine for myself and not working for somebody else. And that's how eventually I got to like, okay, I had a rough concept for the business. By then, the can show already existed. I've already started the show. It's been running. It started really picking up. It was doing well. And we're like, early adopters, early in the game. I was told it's not going to work. We're still here,
Yeah.
And
You said you were one of the original podcasts, right?
yeah, November 2015. By then, Mustatfir just started. They're out of
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia. They just started about a month prior, if I remember that correctly. And Kerning was just kicking off around the same time
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
Kerning.
So the three of us were probably the first independent podcasts at the Middle East.
Yeah.
And around that time, I knew I was like, by the time I was done with it, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I submitted resignation, but I haven't told anybody I was doing that. Go to Cannes, come back. Reem and Omar take me out to dinner. And Reem goes, you're always in our office. You're recording your show. People love having you around. You're a lot of fun, and you seem like you're good at what you do. We have earmarked a budget for a salesperson. Would you like to work with us?
You're like, no
And
thanks,
I'm
mate.
like, actually,
Can I retweak that?
yeah, like I got a better idea, because kind of quit my job. I ain't got no money, no savings, and I got something I wanted to figure out. And I didn't, at the beginning, it wasn't called Dukkan. It was called Cause Culture, because the
Okay.
idea was that everything we do to cause
Cause
cultural
culture.
impact.
Yeah.
And my approach to it was that traditional marketing or the advertising world always overlooks culture. You look at a demographic, you look at a psychographic, but nobody paid attention
miss
to
culture.
and subcultures, right?
And the importance of that.
Completely, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I always give the same example, because I think it's so extreme that people would understand it immediately. Is that if I say skateboard culture, doesn't matter where you are in the world, how old you
But
are,
there is a culture.
there is certain things you all do. You have the same vernacular, the same slang, probably you listen to the same music, and you know certain terminologies and things, and the practice of it, even the way it's
But
documented.
even the fashion,
Exactly, right?
all of it.
So that's it. Like
It
that.
transcends boundaries.
So that's what I'm saying. So cultures and subcultures were critical. So I was like, that I knew that was going to be the backbone of what we're building. But there's a huge educational layer that we had to overcome, because people look at you like, huh?
Yeah.
I sat.
Well, it comes back down to what you said, people understanding that, wanting to pay for that without understanding the value.
Correct. Not knowing your product, not knowing the value is hard. And so we obviously would do some smaller ad agency services. We did a lot of production stuff because Collective was there, so it was a very easy relationship. And I just kept fighting for this thing where I would build strategies around cultural understanding. And little did I know, the Cannes show was a great Trojan horse at the time because it gave us access to incredible people, incredible
I'll help you
conversations.
build a database.
Yo, we knew cinemas were gonna come to Saudi probably like 3-4 years prior, right? That we knew that conversations are currently happening, that this is an actual possibility. So that's the kind of access it gave us.
Yeah.
Which is something I can never take for granted. I don't think we would have been able to build what we did without the podcast.
So today you've got your own business. You're doing everything that you said you did. But you did all this whilst having one hell of a health journey.
Oh, it's still going. It's not, there's no finish line.
No, but you
this one.
mentioned it. Well,
Yeah.
double-edged sword, blessing, curse, silver lining,
All of the above.
all
yeah.
of the above have brought you to where you are today and
Yeah.
created what you have created today, as opposed to going into the
Yeah.
into planes and trains and automobiles. But you said health.
Yeah, so health is a big part of the journey, and now it's come to potentially becoming a creation or a development of a new solution of its own, which I can get to towards the end of this story. So, around the age of 2, I not only still wet the bed, but would wet my pants. So my mom being a pharmacist and a doctor and having doctors for my mom's the youngest of 6. I hope my math is right, but my uncle, the eldest, is a pediatrician. And we had other doctors in the family. So herself through her own med school journey, she's like, that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So we go to see my uncle. Thankfully, he was heading the pediatrician department at Fujairah Hospital. So he was here as well, and he was there since like late 70s, early 80s. So he's quite established in that space. We go down, we see him, and this begins the journey of, okay, it could either be bladder issues, it could either be kidney issues, it could also be psychological. Like, let's not discount that. So it began this journey where I probably have seen all kinds of doctors from that point on. And bless my parents, because it's easier to take one doctor's word for it. My parents were like, no, we need a second opinion. They don't like the second opinion, they'll get the next. Like, they were seeking an answer of hope somewhere that nobody was giving them. So my uncle said, you know what? The best person I can recommend, he was with me in college, Dr. Parrott in London. Go seek this guy. He's the bomb.
Okay.
We go to the UK, and Dr. Parrott, I mean, now you're talking about like 91, 93, early 90s. We go there, and like, this is your old school stereotype of an Englishman doctor. The bow tie, the tweed jacket, the glasses, and
The pipe.
and in an office that's just like mahogany brown library,
Wow,
like
proper.
that. Yeah.
Proper.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of summers and vacations in the UK where we'd just go see this guy. And his diagnosis was, okay, it's a kidney issue. So he said that there's something that happens called the reflux, which happens to all kids. And just a trigger warning if anybody's like low graphic about things, but it's normal. Don't worry. But what happens is that when you urinate, the connections from your kidneys to the bladder, it's like a muscle, it'll close.
Yep.
So then the bladder can push
Yep.
urine out, right? For babies, your body's still developing, so these muscles are not there yet. So it doesn't close properly, and it'll shoot back into the kidney, causing something called interior scarring to the kidney tissue. But also because babies' cells are amazing, and they regenerate so fast and so healthily. In my case, that didn't happen so well.
Okay.
In one of the 2 kidneys. So one took a real bad beating, basically. And that eventually resulted in something else called a dysplasia, which is one is weaker than the other and starts sort of sucking energy out of it.
Out of
Just in
the
some way.
imbalance, yeah.
Correct. But also now there's a question of, but do the bladder muscles in and of themselves work? So you don't want to kind of ignore that one thing. So he's saying by 13, he's going to have a kidney failure. As a result of that, there's going to be a lot of malnutrition issues, development, growth, height concerns, like all these issues that come as for kids who are malnutritioned. And he's going to need a transplant by 18, so he's going to be on dialysis for about 5 years. And at the time, if I'm not mistaken, was because you couldn't transplant on children. Today you can. The science is there. But back then, I think that wasn't a
You were
thing.
straight on dialysis.
So they're like, no, we're not doing that. And that kind, as I said, that kind of kicked off this journey. So I saw all kinds of doctors, even like sheikhs and like what felt like voodoo doctors.
Yep,
Like I've
yep.
seen all of them, therapists, and everything was fine.
Yeah.
And till we got connected with this amazing nephrologist, Dr. Adil Ubaid. If anybody needs a nephrologist,
Okay.
ask for
For
him.
people that don't know what a nephrologist
He's
is.
a kidney doctor.
Okay.
Yes. And he's based in Dubai. Awesome guy. And he became my physician. I would see him every few months, and that kind of kicked off this journey of it. And there are a lot of traumas and scarring issues that happen as a result because, for example, we'd go to Jordan because my uncle's getting a open heart surgery, one of my dad's cousins. And while we're there, they're like, oh, apparently they're great nephrologists here. Let's go see them. And I think I was about 14 at the time. So we go see them, and they're like, all right, we're gonna need a catheter to be able to see the bladder through from the
I
inside.
would hate to think how many catheter experiences you've gone through in your lifetime.
Yeah, it's bad, and especially as a kid. Like
That's
as an adult,
full
I
on.
can deal with it today as an adult, but
As a kid?
the like child trauma was real with that, and the Jordan one in particular, because that catheter went in without enough anesthetics, and
You got to be joking.
yeah, and because my muscles kept I'm in a state of
Tensing,
panic and
yeah.
kept tensing, it bent. So on the way out, it kind of scratched the inside as well.
Oh my God.
So now, 24 hours can't go pee, can't urine, and
Without screaming.
my parents tried everything under the sun, and it just did not work. Eventually, was rushed back to the emergency, and they're like,
What did you
"How
do
did
to my
how
child?
did that happen?" Yeah. So that was a huge issue.
But so all these years, kidney issues, all that, but no operating
So here's the thing: no surgeries at all yet.
and no dialysis.
No dialysis. So not only did I make it past 13, I didn't need a transplant till 21.
Okay.
That's for one.
But
Two,
how did it affect you in life?
so in life, I mean, the physical was not as bad as the mental.
Okay.
Because as a child, you feel invincible regardless of what anybody
Yeah,
says.
yeah, yeah.
Even into your 20s, you feel like you're top of the world. And I was not the healthiest kid. Like, as I said, I was varsity, played sports, and my brother and I used to compete on medals. Like, I was the only African in like the school cricket team. Like, I
Yep.
played all kinds of sports. So there's that, but also you feel so invincible. Now I got into like racial confrontations with kids at school, all these different problems, all the fights that happen. I started befriending people off campus that were not. At 16, you should not be hanging out with 24-year-olds that have no jobs and have no prospects and no education.
Why were you?
Rebellion, like utter sheer rebellion,
Because of the
there's
amount of control that was going on, or
Because-
not lack of control that you had on your
exactly
yeah.
right. This is, I mean, teen rebellion is a thing,
Yeah.
but I took it to an extreme because one, I can't get along with the kids in school, and my relationship with them usually would end at the gate. Like I was just,
Yeah.
I'm like, we ain't
So,
cool
yeah.
like that. But also, I fight back. Like I wouldn't take shit from nobody,
Yeah.
right? And that was also an
Well, when you've had a catheter go in and come
Hey,
out sideways.
yo, you can take a beating,
take
and you can
anything.
beat. Like I'll beat up a kid. His cousins would come and jump me. 4 other guys. Like it was just no brainer. Like
But so you grew up the entire time with this. I don't know, like a
call it a shadow, call it whatever you want to call it.
whatever
but
you
yeah.
want to call it. Well, fucking
A
grim.
crutch,
So-
hey, I know.
dude, the Grim Reaper fucking following you.
Yeah, like we're hanging out. We're hanging out all the time, right? Like we're homies.
He was there with
Yeah.
you from the time you were 2 years old.
Yeah.
And then you hit 21, and that's when that was it, kaput.
Right. So exactly. So and the thing is that in that process, in school I'm doing all this, but then, and here's what I learned from my therapist. It's about the need was for it at the time was to be seen and valued,
Yep.
and in the sense is particularly because I didn't feel seen or valued. The only times I was seen, I was either the troublemaker in school, or it's like we need to go to a doctor. I was always the sick
You were
kid.
either sick.
So you were always now there's the guilt of being the burden of the family, right? So you have that added pressure that you're delivering as well. Also, picking up bad habits, smoking, the fights, hanging out with the wrong crowd, messing about in life. Like there is no way anybody could look at like my life and say I have not lived to the max despite everything. I'm like, I think there was always a sense of timeliness
But
understanding.
that was
You know?
that's one of the reasons that was one of the reasons that I really wanted to get you
Yeah.
talking on the show and it is that mindset that you had.
Yeah.
Time for you.
And it's the first time I reflect back on that with the understanding of time, because usually the critical piece for me was Dr. Sarah Kamal, who I credited earlier. I was terrible in her class because I just wouldn't show up. This was after my first surgery, and she was like, "Look, you're gonna fail your midterm." So, bro,
Hold on, when you say first surgery
I
is
had
in
two.
kidney,
2 kidney transplants.
right? Before you go,
Okay, because
before you
I
go
can
there,
jump timelines. Go for it.
your kidney failed.
So, right before I needed dialysis, I got my surgery. Like
Okay.
right at I ran this kidney to the ground. I got it to the finish line, and they're like, "Yo, it's dialysis or
You're like,
transplant
mate,
now."
I got past 13.
Yo.
You didn't think I was gonna make it.
Yeah, we made it to 21.
And I was abusive to it.
I beat it. Yo, I was abusive, and I played basketball, and I played sport. Like, I was not supposed to be this tall. Like, what am I, like 176? What is that, 5'9"? Like, I'm not even supposed to be this tall. Like, I've seen other patients that did not, who had young, like, kidney issues from youth, and I've seen what has done to their
it
lives.
really stumps them.
Yo,
Yeah.
and the mental, the emotional challenges. Like,
Everything.
I've shared hospital wards with so many people my whole life that, like, I've seen it across the years.
Because it can break you.
Oh,
It can break your
Completely.
spirit. You cannot come back
Completely.
from it. And especially, you didn't just have one, but you had two.
mm-hmm.
And getting a kidney.
Oh, it's not easy. I was, here's the thing. I will always say this. I'm the luckiest person on earth.
Who
Because
gave
not
you
only
the
did I get a
kidney?
kidney, but first one was dad. The whole family is the same blood type. Like, let's just begin there. The fact that you have a family of 4 boys, 2 parents that are all the same blood type in
It's
and of
quite-
itself.
Is
Yeah.
you don't get a whole family being the same,
No,
do you?
no. Like,
No.
that's really strange.
Quite rare.
It's rare. So that was funny. So my dad insists on being the donor. Him and mom kind of had a thing about it, and he said, he's like, I've been the financier for this family. I haven't been a parent. Like, you've been doing the work. So I'm gonna give him my kidney. I'm like, great. Now I need to carry that guilt. Appreciate it, bro.
Right. But
But I'll
that's
take it.
But that's exactly it. Like
Yeah.
that's gotta be
Yeah.
heavy.
Oh, very. And then
And at 21.
oh, horrible. And then the second one was my brother's.
And then you went in for another one.
Oh, yeah, because I needed it. What happened was a few weeks. So post transplant, you are heavily immunosuppressed, particularly after the surgery. There's a whole system and a routine and a practice that goes into play where you got to make sure you're getting tested 3 times a week at the first month, and then you get tested twice a week, and then it goes to once a week. So the idea is that over time, the duration of you going back to the hospital
Is less.
is less, but also the amount of medications you're on is less. Like, I'm on a lot of pills till date, but at least compared to back then, I was taking. It was 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 9 p.m., 11 p.m. And they were like a bunch of pills for each, and then they're different medications. It was a whole thing. And now it's 9 a.m., 9 p.m., and there are technically only 3 meds. But even those 3 meds, the quantities are high, right? So anyway, when you go through the
Father and your brother,
surgery,
Jesus.
you're immunosuppressed through IV.
Oh,
So-
really?
Yeah, because they gotta get the body to accept the new kidney. And
Because just because you match doesn't mean your body will keep
No,
it.
no, no, no,
right?
no.
It can reject.
yeah, it can reject, because what happens is your body identifies it as a foreign object. Just like a virus, just like a bacteria, it'll attack because it's not your DNA, it's not you, right? We have similar DNAs, but it's not yours. And the purpose of the medication is to get your body, it puts like a pause on your immune system,
To not
right?
attack.
To not attack. And then there's a timeline where this IV fluid starts to leave your body and your system. So what happens is, round 1, day 1, after surgery, they start putting you on pills. So now, as this decreases, the pills should take over the job. Now, this is where the problems happen, because as the doctor said, it's an art more than it is science, because everybody's different, every immune system is different, every DNA is different, it's very subjective. There are different products, different brands, different types that do different functions with different side effects. So it's about figuring out what's right for different people. And that's hard. I mean, look, I'm glad I'm not a nephrologist and transplant, because that is rough to try and figure out this formula every time. That has too many variables, too many moving pieces,
And has such a massive impact.
and the repercussions
Yeah.
of making a wrong decision are huge. And I was the result of wrong decisions.
Oh, no way. And that's
So,
why you ended up with your second
so
kidney
I
going.
got, so yeah, a few weeks in, they always said, you got a fever, it's either a rejection or an infection. You rush to the emergency.
Yep.
So went to the emergency. They're like, yep, it's a rejection. After a few tests, I got admitted right then and there. And I spent over 30 days, give or take, between post-transplant dialysis, plasma dialysis, whole range of new medication that they were testing out. And my body would react so fast. It'll do all these kind of weird things, right? Like I'd go through a plasma dialysis session and then some new medication, and in a span of a couple of hours, my whole forehead is just like pimples everywhere.
Wow.
And then you'll switch it around and it'll disappear like it never existed. Like, it was so strange. And the problem is, I was on like 500 milligrams of cortisone or something. So now I'm beginning to gain weight and bloat up very fast due to water retention. Simultaneously, that amount of steroid medication messes you up completely. Like, I would use, do I refer to them like, I kind of have an understanding what it feels like to PMS, because there is no reason why somebody would watch The Simpsons and break out in ugly tears and then watch Hotel Rwanda and find it funny.
Welcome to PMS.
Yo, like, my mom thought I was crazy. Like, who laughs watching Hotel Rwanda? It's dark.
It's beyond dark.
It is a dark movie.
But it's so dark that it would create such an odd reaction.
So I've had strange
Yeah,
reactions
yeah.
to all kinds of things at the time. So while I'm dealing with that, one night a nurse comes in to check my vitals, which is normal. Like, they do
Yeah.
it around the clock. But instead of getting mask, gloves, PEP, the whole thing, I think just absentmindedly comes in with nothing on.
And you got no
and-
immune system.
So generally, what would not even give you the sniffles, like your white blood cell, be like, something strange, let's just get rid of it real quick. They are not there to do that. So I caught it and I started coughing to the point where I coughed blood. I coughed my lungs out. I pass out. Wake up a few days later in the ICU.
Shit.
And the doctors go like, so we had to make quick decisions, quick math. Save the life, save the kidney. So we chose life because your lungs don't work. So we stopped all your immunosuppressants to give your immune system a fighting chance to potentially kick out whatever it is in your lungs. And I had this mask on my face that was pumping air in and out of my lungs. It does the breathing
Wow.
for me. And the reference he gave, which I'm like, I appreciate your sense of humor in these times. He called it like a lawnmower. Like, we're trying to kickstart your lungs again and hope it
Wow.
works.
Wow.
I'm like, cool, thanks, dude. So
Awesome.
thanks, doc.
Keep pulling.
Keep at it. And then I had like a breathing physiotherapist after a while that would like
To learn
help
to breathe again.
Yeah, and like these machines that I would work on, and I would take like 3 different, like, those like asthma sprays. I'd have like 3 different variations of it, and it was just like, okay, we're building the lungs up from scratch. So I kind of went through that process. That entire experience resulted in a lot of beating to the kidney. Like, it went 13
time
rounds with
period?
Muhammad Ali. if
What
you
time
will.
period?
This was summer of 2000. No, sorry. Surgery was 24th of May 2010. This was after semester started, because I didn't stick around for the semester. My brother was born while I was in the hospital, so this was September leaning into October. So it was just a few months.
A few months.
Yeah.
When did the next
So they said I'm
transplant?
gonna need another kidney in 2 years or dialysis until we can figure out a match. Made it to 2016, so another medical mistake and another
Yeah.
medical miracle. Shout out to mom and God, because mom's prayers and God's listening.
Yeah.
Made it to 2016.
So you're how old by this stage?
2016, I was already working in the ad agency.
Okay.
That's when I met you after my surgery.
Just after.
Just after, because my
I-
surgery was on the 4th of May. So
That's
remember
right.
I told you the barter
Yeah,
deal I
yeah,
did
yeah,
with
yeah.
Reem? I knew I was going to have the surgery by Feb. So preparations began. And I built the can show and this whole new thing, and I'm like taking all these projects
Was
on
that what was
board.
driving you?
Completely, because
Time. For you, time.
So here's the thing. As I said, I credited time here throughout my entire life for the first time, because generally I credited Dr. Sarah Kamal. Because at the point after my first surgery, I'm back in university finally, trying to just find normalcy in my life. And today I understand I was going through severe depression. I didn't have the vernacular to know what that is. It's just I wanted to get the fuck out of the house. It didn't matter where I was going. I didn't even care to go to class. Like, I just wanted to be out. So I'd go to university. I just want to attend classes. I'll just hang out, be a bum, and like go home. And it was hard because I gained so much weight that people didn't recognize me.
Wow.
Colleagues, classmates, friends. They're like, "Oh hey, oh that's you." Like they'll take
And
a
then
minute.
and then the look.
Yeah, and it's like, "Oh, what happened?" And
Yeah.
answering what happened 20 times a
Breaks
day
you
for
down.
it's exhausting.
Breaks you down.
So it was rough. So then when she was like, "Come to my office, let's talk about this. You're gonna fail the midterm, so might as well drop the course." I'll go to see her, and she's like, "I'm one of the toughest professors on this campus. I do not give multiple choice exams. I usually give 2 to 3 questions, only open ended. You have not attended one class, and attendance was like 10-15% of the grade. You're not gonna make it. You're definitely failing my class. So just FYI, I might as well drop it before the midterm." Now, don't tell me to do something or tell me I cannot do something. Now I'm just going to be stubborn as all hell.
Yep.
So I'm like, all right, well, you're on. I'm like, I refused to sign it and I walked out. Opened the book and I flipped through the pages and everything just felt like sheer common sense. I'm like, none of this
Yep.
is
I get it. I
difficult.
get it.
I'm
I
like,
get it.
I
Yeah.
gotta get done. Like, these chapters are going to be easy. And again, it goes back to, I think, just my exposure throughout my life because with music and hip hop culture, but also like business exposure through my dad, I had an understanding, but also I had great teachers where in high school I actually took business and economics courses, so that gave me a good backbone. I walked into the exam and I aced the midterm. I'm like, whatever, in your
Yeah.
face, you know. Kind of wanted to throw paper in her face, but like, there you go, you know. And
Don't tell me, like, don't say can't.
yeah, I walked out with like a B plus or something in the
Yeah.
course. The following semester, just to be that guy, I took 3 classes with her.
Yeah.
Just I'm like, it's you and I. What's up?
Yeah.
What do we got?
Yeah.
So I'll never forget media planning and buying class. I walk in and she goes like, "It seemed like you matured between the semesters. 3 classes, huh?" And she laughed. I'm like, "Yo, that is some backhanded ass compliment." Sure, whatever. And she asked me to stick around after class, and we started talking. She's like, "Okay, clearly you're not an idiot. Like, what's the deal?" And I told her about what's been happening, and it was the first time I articulated out loud that I was like, I became very aware of my mortality. I'm like, I've never had this heightened sense of I can go at any minute.
Yeah.
And her response was like, "Let's say you died today." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, ma'am, you have a way with words."
You're like, awesome.
You know?
You don't mince your words, do you?
Seriously. And she was like, "Let's say that happens. What have you done for yourself? What is it that you've done that you're proud of?" And I had nothing. All that I had was a little silly ass dance crew that I started on campus freshman year with a friend of mine. And that's not like something I can run home about. We're like, "Yo, we're dope dancers." Like, no. So I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing." She's like, "Maybe you want to think about that." Cool. And then around the same time, I was taking a different marketing class with a professor called Dr. Ahmad Maghrib. He worked in corporate by day, so he would teach in the evenings as an adjunct faculty, and his classes were awesome. Everybody loved him because he was the guy with like the tennis ball in class. If somebody falls asleep, throw it at his head, and like he'll make jokes and super interactive and wouldn't open the books. And he would host classes outside of the classroom. So tough class to get access to, you know. But I happened to get into it, and most of the people with me were Emirati guys in that class because they would work in government by day.
Yeah.
They'd have a day job and then
Yeah.
come to school in the evening. And that one class, it was raining, and these girls were like, "Oh my God, it's raining! Yeah!" You know, it's like winners, good old Dubai winners. And the guys start like making jokes about one of the boys who got a new car. "I was gonna go drift in the rain," you know, just like boy talk. About a couple of hours later, we get a BBM broadcast for those that remember.
Oh my God,
Blackberries.
BBMs. Yep.
Yeah, and the kid unfortunately passed away in a car accident. And he actually was just on Sig's Eye. Dude was a newlywed 2 weeks in.
Jesus.
Just got married, and the car was like a wedding gift from his father-in-law or something along those lines. And the reason why this class will forever be like a moment for me, because that was the class where Dr. Ahmad decided, I got something to ask everybody. What do you got? Who here knows what a purpose is? And everybody shot the most random responses. And I thought it was just an interesting question. I don't know what it even meant. And eventually some guy says, "Oh, leaving your fingerprint behind." And he's like, "Great. What is your fingerprint?" And now guesses again. And when the kid said that, I wrote it down because I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And then he said, "Yeah, but what is that fingerprint?" Like, "Oh, great. I was kind of scratched." You
Yeah.
know? And we didn't get anywhere, but he eventually said, like, for me, I was always called to be a teacher. Like, I quit. He used to play in the Egyptian handball professional national team, and he quit that to be a teacher. Like, even at his day job, his role is like corporate senior C-suite training. Like, he is a teacher. And I'm like, okay, cool, great. That's your thing. You know, that's your calling, bro. And I'm like, all right, so what's mine? And it kind of became this inquisition. I didn't have any clarity, but I was like, okay, we're going to do this thing. So part of it, if it's the fingerprint, then I took it to the literal sense of, at every stage, what is the fingerprint you left? I was like, school, we messed that up. Let's do something. Let's do something out here. So I started literally just called the agency, which was an ad agency concept that I built into the university. I got Dr. Sarah Kamal as our faculty member. And we would barter deals with different clubs. Like, hey, photography guys, we'll rebrand your stuff. We want you to cover our events, and like kind of working out all kinds of deals. And I remember, as of the work, Dr. Sarah Kamal put me forward to go to the Leo Academy at Dubai Links, and another professor put my name forward for it. But the university president rejected it because I was not a 3-point-some GPA student. So I'm like, all right, cool. I created a sponsorship program within the agency to sponsor students with great potential that the university can't see to go to the Dubai Links.
But OT, why do you think, or what is it that got you? Because the pendulum can go either way. When
Yeah.
you go through something that brings your mortality to your face, and not only once but twice, and then you carry the guilt of, you know, your father and your brother
yeah.
gave you a kidney, and you know there was the time where, you know, you're rejecting it, then feeling guilty of all of that.
Yeah.
Some people go to a dark place and never come back.
I did.
Yeah, but you came back, and
I just had the
you've
right-
never gone.
No, I've. It's not that I've never gone to the extreme. I did. I was in a very bad place. Where now I was incredibly unhappy. I was in probably the most toxic relationship I've ever experienced in my life, and at the same time, I was working at radio because it kind of gave me this excitement, and I was partying in a club 7 days a week. Like, I would. There were kids from Abu Dhabi that I would go to Abu Dhabi with on a Monday or a Tuesday night, party, go to an after party till 6 a.m., drive back to Dubai, and not go to campus and not go to school, just have fun with it. So, what kept me, I think I just had the right people, like my professor at the time, who kind of gave me this inquisition that I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. And I think I just had great exposure in my life where I've seen the worst and I've seen the best
Yeah,
simultaneously.
but you've maintained it.
Yeah.
For as long as I've known you, you've maintained it, and you've got this. It's like when you've stared death in the face.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you. It takes you somewhere where none of us who haven't been there
Yeah.
can understand.
Correct.
It gives
And-
you a perspective.
Completely. And I think it was just one of those things where I'm like, okay, then if I am racing time and I could go at any minute, how much can I get done before I'm gone? That became the race of, I need to get as much as possible, because her question was clear. What have you done for yourself that you're proud of?
But you don't do it. You don't feel a anxiety in you. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like to sort of, if you
No,
feel like
because
you're
suddenly
racing
I had
time.
something to do.
Yeah, but to always feel like today could be the day, or any
Yeah.
day, when you've got, you know, because knock on wood, you're healthy, but
Yeah.
you've had moments where you've ended up back in hospital, right?
Yeah,
Like you're
loads.
always going to be. Like, we're not even going to touch on COVID.
Yeah.
You know, that would have been a very scary time for you, Jesus.
Yeah.
And you did, and I'm
And it
pretty
was.
sure you did go in and out of hospital a bit. So
Yeah.
even you just going into the hospital could be
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
But I don't feel any anxiety from you. Like as in, you know
No,
that
so-
anxiousness of I got to get it all done. I got to get it
No,
done.
no,
I
so
got to
I
get
do
it done.
have that.
You do?
I just, it's all in my head more than, I cannot articulate or talk it as fast as
Yeah.
the thoughts in my head.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, it does. It does.
Yeah. So like it's always there, and apparently now I actually do have like a higher anxiety baseline. Like it's just there at all
It's
times.
there.
Yeah.
And that's now become your norm.
Yeah. It's my
Yeah.
norm. Just like how at some point my doctor's like, oh, you got high blood pressure. We're gonna put you on statins, and I'm like, nope, because the side effects
Yeah.
of statins are horrible. And I'd argue with them, and I was like, great, I'm gonna train it away. Like I'm gonna figure out diet and workout and fitness to not need the medication. And technically on paper it's higher, but the science is flawed. It was done against white men a very long time ago within a
Yeah, it
certain
doesn't
age
quite
group.
work, yeah.
So there's actually no understanding of does it actually affect everybody that
Yeah.
way. It's just a presumption that it does. And that's what you're taught in school, and I get that. But there are other people that argue that actually you can have a new baseline based on certain chronic illnesses that you can go through. And ever since I stopped them, it hasn't necessarily dropped, but it hasn't gone up. It's just been there. So my anxiety is kind of like that, where it's like it's a new baseline, and that's my new norm.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Awesome. Health, fitness,
Yeah.
food, all of it. So that's something that's now all these elements,
Every day.
but it all brings you peace.
Mm-hmm.
It's what brings you a lot of peace.
Yeah.
Okay. So if your teacher asked you today
Yeah.
the same question,
Oh, I'll be like, yo, I'm killing it right now.
Yeah?
Yeah. No, hands down. Like, I'm very proud of how far I've come, despite feeling like I'm not
Yeah.
done yet.
but what are you most proud of?
I think what I'm most proud of is where I've managed to set control to my health, and I can have a clear data argument to prove it. Not only my hospital tests, but I've been measuring since since late 2019 to early 2020. I weigh myself every day. I weigh and check the quality of food I have every meal, and I measure my workouts, and I also measure my sleep. And I look at the data, I look at the stats, and I figure out a way around it and how to improve on it. And that's something I've been, for the most part, diligent. Very diligent. I might have missed a week here and there, but otherwise, overall, very diligent. And learning how these all work and setting a baseline. And now, despite all the red flags about my health, I have been at my optimal to a great capacity. To give it an example, on average, health insurance in this town costs you anywhere between 37K if you want a good package, decent one. I would get those, and then by the time we come to renew at the end of the year, they will by then figure it out I'm post-transplant. I never say I am. And I have had quotations that come back at, I've had 95,000. This was actually as of last week. I've had 175,000, which was a couple of years back. I've had about 130,000 from 3 to 5,000 per annum. I'm going to hundreds and thousands per annum. And at the beginning, at first I'm like, okay, I'm not going to deal with this, just find a new one. But eventually I'm going to run out
Yeah.
of options.
Yeah.
So this year I decided to put my foot down. I called them up and I was like, look, you guys, I have evidence proof on social media videos of me performance, of my physical performance. I have reports from my doctors for this amount of time. I also have my sleep patterns. I have the food I eat, and I have my weights and my BMI details down to my fat percentage. I'm like, I can give you all that. I'm willing to bet. I will bet the same 95,000 that I am probably healthier than most of the people that you could consider quote unquote normal who don't have a chronic illness. I will bet. I was like, I'll bet my business on it. And I was like, what do you need for me to? I can come in and provide all this information. So she's like, let me talk to the team and get back to you.
Cannot compute. This
You
is not
know?
normal process.
Yeah.
You're actually thinking outside the box.
I was like, there was a point where I was a Nike sponsored athlete for some period of time. We made a film about it. Like, I was like, I'm like, at the very least, I know I got this thing going for me. So now they're like, all right, we just need a medical report. So and I had my appointment, my follow-up appointment today. And I told the doc, I was like, bro, look, I need a report for this thing. And he looked at me like, so what do you want it to say though? I was like, just your, I was like, no.
I'm freaking awesome.
Yeah. I was like, look, I was like, there's already a language you have an understanding with the insurance companies that there's certain things you need to say. I was like, as a conclusion, I need a statement where you say
that says you're not the liability they think you are.
Completely. I was like, in whichever wording you want, but as long as that message is clear that they understand that. And he's like, all right, cool, we'll figure something out. So like, I'm fighting this fight. And this also inspired a new business that I've been working on since 2020, where I've been researching quite a lot on it. And I'm developing some stuff with Reem in this aspect where it's going to focus, it's a health tech business in particular for people with chronic illnesses. And I've R&D'd myself and people I know, and I've interviewed, like I've met Robert Neighbors, who's a barber, 52 years old in the US, and the guy's built like a gorilla. He's just like muscle. Like, dude is massive. And I'm like, yo, if you could do that in your 50s, I can't wait, right? I interviewed this 26-year-old girl named Megan, who's a power lifter, little short thing in like countryside somewhere in the UK. I've interviewed people in Japan, I've interviewed people in Asia and different parts of the world that were post-transplant of any kind, lung,
I think I just
kidney,
heard your fingerprint.
whatever it is.
I think I just heard your fingerprint. OT.
Yeah, so that's what now I'm working on building.
That's what you're here to do.
Completely. And I've told Rian, like, once this thing starts, the first thing going in the office before furniture, I'm going to print every new quotation I got from insurance companies. I'm going to have those framed up on the walls before getting any furniture in that office space. That's the first thing I'm going to put in there, because that's what I'm working on. That's what it is.
I'm going to stop it there because I'm getting looks from the corner of my eye. We can go forever.
I warned you. I told you this would happen.
She usually is like, but that's where I want to end it, because that's your fingertip. That's your fingerprint. That is your life, and everything that you've gone through has come to this one point.
Yeah. This is what we're here for.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of you.
Appreciate that.
I can't wait to, it's going to be amazing. You're going to change people's lives.
I hope so. That's the game plan.
You will.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Welcome to Rooted Within with Lily and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.